Africa unite for the children.
Wow, thank you very much. This is Mr. Ngeno, the CEO of Yellow Ribbon Initiative, a project of Flair Africa Summit. What we do is basically to reintegrate the ex-offenders into the community and build them, empowering them, and simply making life better for them. For this reason that they have to become part of the community. And this has been occasioned by the fact that many of us have been in custody before, and we went through a lot of problems and troubles to secure our living and make sure we bond again to the society. This occurs especially when you have a situation where you have a very negative society and receptive society. They already have and in mind a thought that anybody that has gone to custody is a very bad man, is an evil man, is a wicked man, and he does not belong to the society. And therefore, we came up together with quite a number of us and bonded together to solve the situation, to help the circumstances that are really coming up, the unfulfilled gaps within the community that the government could not sort out. There many non-governmental or the civil society have not been able to handle that, and even the faith-based organizations have not been able to hold that. And therefore, we came up with the mission of hope, building hope, giving hopes to the hopeless, and helping the needy in the community to make sure they now are able to build themselves. And therefore, I welcome you into this channel. Subscribe, share, and let's so that you may be able to get an up-to-date. And we encourage people that when you have an ex-convict in the midst of you, whether it's your brother, your husband, your wife, anybody within your vicinity, just involve us so that we may be able to mediate between them and bring them into the social economic sector. We do counseling, we do mediation, we offer legal advice. In our database, we have all kind of professionals to help people reach out to be embedded into the community. And therefore, there is something I want to talk about today with respect to those people or those convicts or persons who are in conflict with the law. But then there is another person who suffers in the midst of all these things. And this is something that many courts, if not the government at all, have forgotten to look upon the plight of this individual who is protected by the government, protected by the institutions, but still, again, we have them ignored and they end up suffering. And this is none other than the children of the incarcerated persons or the children of just admitted persons into the remand sector. We had a situation where a child was found by a good Samaritan, and when he was asked a question of why he was crying, walking alone in the streets and finding himself very hopeless, and the man just asked him, "What is happening?" He said, "My father has been arrested and he was taken to prison." Now, when a lot of inquiry, when this man just went on asking about the why he was bothered, he said, "I don't have another person. My mother died many years ago. I don't have my brothers." He said he doesn't know even where the sister went. Now he is alone because he's been living alone with the father. A very sad story indeed. Now, what are the things that we are getting out here? And this is where now Yellow Ribbon Initiative comes in to see how we can be able to help those who who are actually needy in the community and who have been left aside, that the government or any other authorities has overlooked them. It is simply on paper that such people, such children are need to be considered before admitting or anyone into remand custody. These are areas that we need to look at. And so this is what happens in Yellow Ribbon Initiative. But we are doing this video today to actually make an advice. And we're going to do an application in a very short time for the government authority, the judiciary, to always consider these persons whenever they are making decisions, because in one way or another, the decisions they make about the person will affect the community, because nobody lives alone in the society. Now, when we look at this very critically, you realize that court must carefully evaluate what happens when they detain a parent, how it affects the person, how it affects the wife, the family, the children, and what will be the feeling or the perception of the children and the family to the judiciary. For example, the courts. What happens when you take away the breadwinner and the children know that it's been arrested? What will be the relationship between the family and the police? What will be the relationship between the children, the family, and the courts? They will always have to develop a very negative attitude, very negative feelings about these institutions, so that tomorrow when we have them as leaders, they really have been impaired totally. For example, if you have this kind of child becoming a president tomorrow, you don't be surprised when he starts talking negatively about the police, negatively about the judiciary. It's because there is a history building up in his life. So they already have a negative attitude towards the institutions that affected their lives. And so it is very important at this point that we need to look at why child matters, child welfare matters when remand decisions are made. Why should the court consider the child's welfare when they're making decisions to remand a parent? And this is something that is very important that the courts need to look at this moment. The Constitution and very especially the Children's Act says that the best interest of children, including international legal frameworks, they require courts to prioritize the child's interest. They are supreme. They are the best interest. What is the effect when we remand, if we happen to remand this person? What will that have? What impact will it have to the child's welfare? And this is something that has not been considered. Remember, the child's basic needs, emotional trauma, the physical safety, the protection. Not every child will be protected in any family or anywhere they learn. And that's why many of them are found in the streets. Do we consider the best interests of the children when we make decisions like this in court? Whatever decision has happened, whether it was a very grievous offense or whatever situation it was, we look at what is the effect of what is the impact of this decision to that of the child. And so you will notice that immediately after that decision has been made, trauma begins, and the child's psychology is already distorted about now what the hope. This is the man I relied upon. This my father was the only one I knew. He was my God. He was everything. My mother was everything. And suddenly, the court has taken him. The police has taken him. It is like death. And so the burden begins from there. The child begins, where am I going to sleep? Where am I going to get food? And many of these, like this child who landed in, who was found sniffing glue, the first day sniffing glue. This young man just rescued him. Now, how many children do we have that have been turned to street urchins, prostitution, crime because of a simple decision that the court ignored? Remember, bond terms are supposed to be affordable in the sense that they are simply supposed to be cheap. And so, because we cannot determine the cheapness or the ability to afford, then it is very important for the courts to decide to make the decision having in mind that there are people surrounding these men. If these men can afford 10,000, 20,000, whatever amount, instead of raising a cash bill of 100 to 200,000, which is beyond their means, don't we have a family member to bond the two? Don't we have a chief authority to give us a letter to tell us the background check? Don't we have, prior to this, it can be done even during the police arrest. We need to have this background check so that we don't pick on somebody and arrest him and leave the child behind, who is now going to suffer because of a simple decision which could have been made corporately or holistically by involving stakeholders, because no man lives alone in the community. And so this is our take, this is our advice, or this our really our simple advice for as an organization, so that all factors can be considered. That caregiver status. Now, is the accused person the sole or primary provider of the child? If indeed this is the position, and even if they have another caregiver, or for example, the wife or the husband has remained behind, are they stable? Are they able to sustain or to take up the primary roles of the child, like provisions of the daily upkeep, the love, the care, and actually counseling? Is it possible? If the accused then is the sole breadwinner or the primary provider of the family and the child inclusive, then there are other alternative methods that have to be considered for this one, so that to enable him to come to court. And for example, if it is not a grievous issue like the causing disturbance in the community, not robbery with violence, murder, and all that, if these are other misdemeanor offenses, then the alternative dispute resolutions can be adopted, or simple, very basic, cheap measures for bond terms to be given. However, if the case is so grievous, like for example, I've mentioned defilement, robbery with violence, murder, and all that stuff, then alternative care can be given to the child. And are there are there capable, willing, and vetted relatives available to step in immediately? Do we have them who can take care of that? Do we have institutions that can do foster parenting, that can do provision for that kind? Do we have faith-based organizations that can provide for this facility? These are alternative care to be given to these children. And also we look at the child's age. Younger children and infants require specialized continuous care that jail environments cannot provide. For example, taking a parent to jail or to remand with a child is the worst thing that the courts can do. And this thing has to be stopped immediately. Now, I have mentioned about the severity of the offense, and this can be looked at the balance of the seriousness of the alleged crime against the potential harm of the child and also the victim. This can be weighed upon. And of course, we have the community that was involved. What measures can be taken in place or can be put in place to balance the two areas? Because we cannot accommodate the person who has committed robbery with violence, murder, defilement. We cannot put them within the same community. We've got to disconnect them first, and then we look at measures. But so there are other things that can be put in place to make sure the safety of child and the welfare of the children is well taken care of. In most scenarios, or in most cases, courts normally fear, or they don't want to risk flight, or rather flight risk persons when they are released on bond. And this requires community supervision, uh, and this can be done through pretrial detention. For example, before being admitted to prison, there has to be a pretrial table, so that now a community can be brought in, those who are closer, that they can explain how they can handle the situation, especially when it comes to bond terms. And so supervised bail is very necessary, releasing the parent with strict reporting requirements to ensure court attendance. There has to be put strict requirements. For example, report to the chief and ensure there is a constant um, information to notify the court on your whereabouts. Of course, in other advanced nations, we have electronic monitoring where there is a tracking of the parents' location while allowing them to remain home with their family. So there is that consistent managing of the remandee while at home. And also, there is also something that needs to be considered: expedite trials may fasten the trials rather than somebody staying in remand for 1 year, 2 years, 6 months. I have cases on my table which have taken over 2 years before a matter begins. So these are some of the things that are becoming very detrimental to our children, and we need to handle them as soon as possible, because we are creating more destruction to our children than we are making them. So if we are going to help this, we need to look at the non-custodial, or to make the pre-trial system to be incorporated into the judicial system. And also we need to look at items like or sectors like non-custodial systems, to accommodate those ones for the purpose of the family. And I think with this, if the court can be able to secure or provide that kind of environment to accommodate this kind of discussion before admitting somebody to custody, we shall have a holistic environment where even some cases can be sorted out of court without taking anybody to remand. And I pray that this will be considered. Yellow Ribbon Initiative is a project that we have initiated to help establish amicable society, ex-convicts and those who are getting entry into the prison system.
Nilikuwa na baba, mikono imefungwa, macho yako yakiwa yamejaa huzuni. Nikashika shati lako kwa nguvu sana, lakini wakakuondoa mbali nami. Barabara ilikuwa ndefu sana, nikitembea bila kusema neno, watu wakinitazama kimya kimya, lakini moyoni nilikuwa navunjika. Baba, usiende mbali, mimi bado ni mdogo. Nani atanibeba nikilia usiku? Baba, usiende mbali, je marcherai seul dans la nuit. Mikono yako ilikuwa nyumba yangu, sasa nimebaki na kivuli tu. Papa, pourquoi les chaînes? Oh baba, rudi nyumbani tena. Mama nalia akiwa dirishani, chakula mezani hakijaguswa. Kiti chako bado kipo pale pale, lakini sauti yako haisikiki tena. Nililala nikikumbatia picha yako, nikimwomba Mungu akurudishe, maana dunia inaogopesha sana. Na mtoto bila baba ni kama giza. Papa, j'ai peur sans toi. La maison est froide maintenant. Je regarde la porte chaque nuit, en espérant ton retour. Walipokuweka kwenye gari lile, nilipiga kelele nikikuita, lakini milango ilifungwa mbele yangu na sauti yako ikapotea mbali.
Pole mtoto mdogo, usikate tamaa. Baba
chini ya mvua ya usiku. Baba, usiende mbali, urudi unione tena, maana moyo wa mtoto mdogo hawezi kubeba maumivu haya.
Onui papa, nitakusubiri mpaka urudi nyumbani.